Imagine you've been robbed, and when you report the incident to campus police, they immediately question your credibility. What were you wearing? A gold watch? A nice suit? Dressing like that, you were basically asking to get robbed. Imagine that when you go to the police or try to tell university administrators, they say it was your fault for flaunting your wealth or walking alone at night. Imagine that campus police decide not to prosecute the person that stole from you because they don't want to ruin the reputation of somebody who made one single mistake. It may sound far-fetched, but it happens every day with a much more serious issue: campus rape and sexual assault. We need to change the idea that the burden of campus rape prosecution lies solely on the victim. Instead, the root of the problem is that universities fail to seek justice for victims who come forward, which discourages other women from coming forward. Most of us in here are university students, and myself in a relatively still new environment. One of my biggest fears, and I'm sure the fears of others around me, is campus rape and sexual assault. I believe it's one of the biggest problems on college campuses. I understand that a case can never be opened if a victim never comes forward and charges can never be filed, but that's not where the problem begins. Universities have to act in the best interest of victims. In order to show that survivors of rape and sexual assault have the backing of their college, universities must do their due diligence in prosecution. Take Laura Dunn, for example, a former student at the University of Wisconsin. Joseph Shapiro, an investigative journalist at NPR, was told by Dunn that she had been raped by two men she knew in 2004, but didn't report it until a year later because she wasn't aware that what had happened to her was rape, which highlights the importance of consent education in reported rape prevalence. It took the University of Wisconsin 9 months to investigate her case and ended up not punishing her rapists. The case of Laura Dunn is not an isolated incident. 1 in 4 women will be sexually assaulted during their time at a 4-year university and may experience something just like Dunn had. But that statistic could be underreported. Because of negative social stigma, survivors of sexual assault may not come forward for fear of being judged by their peers or administrators. With the cases previously mentioned, how do you think that makes other survivors feel? Why would they want to relive their trauma over and over and ultimately be told that nothing had happened to them? The most common reasons women don't report their rape or sexual assault, compiled from responses analyzed by Chelsea Spencer and other students from the University of Kansas State in Texas, Austin, include that they were too ashamed to report, they didn't know who to report to, they were unaware that they even could report, or they were drunk when the incident occurred, or they felt as if they would be blamed for putting themselves in that situation. In a Washington Post Kaiser Family Foundation poll, said to be one of the most comprehensive to date about campus rape and sexual assault, found that of the 71% of people who tell others about their assault, 59% never reported it to the police or authorities, and 89% said no one was held responsible or punished. If we have sexual assault education and stricter punishments for offenders, the number of people who will blame the victims will in turn decrease. When campus authorities do their part to prosecute rapists and emphasize the fact that sexual assault is never the victim's fault, that mindset will transfer to students. At schools who do not offer comprehensive consent education, victims may never come forward. An unnamed 19-year-old University of Michigan student who suspects that she was sexually assaulted after she got blackout drunk at a fraternity party explained to the Washington Post why she didn't report it to authorities. "I didn't want to start an entire thing," she said. "I didn't want the whole frat to have a backlash against me." Instead, she told a male friend who said, "There's a difference between having drunk, regrettable sex and being raped." Even in a society that's becoming more progressive, that's a viewpoint that is still held too often. That's the kind of viewpoint that keeps victims from coming forward and reporting their assault, that keeps rapists on the streets, that continues this awful cycle over and over again. We cannot sit on our hands and let this happen and blame the victim when statistically 1 in every 4 women in this room will face or have already faced sexual assault. Women will not willingly go into situations that make them feel unsafe, and that's exactly what administrators do when a student comes forward. We hear over and over again this rhetoric of victim blaming, and do we ever once think about the way survivors feel? How gut-wrenching it must feel to be told that they're the reason that they were raped, that they were too drunk, too scantily clad, too flirty. And to hear it again when you come forward about what had happened to you, when that's the last thing you should be facing. College administrators need to protect their students, but that does not mean protecting rapists. Thank you.